Hey, listener. Want to help us out? Leave a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or hit that like button on YouTube. Only takes a second on your end and really helps us out on ours. Otherwise, enjoy the show. You're listening to Cinematic Doctrine. Anyways, so hey, if you just press play, you are missing out on about 25 minutes of an extra discussion that's exclusive to Patreon. This discussion is on the recently revealed, canceled Pixar project called Be Free. That's B-E-F-R-I, so Be Fry. It was a magical girl-esque type project that had been canceled in 2023, like mid to late 2023. And this came out right the day Hoppers was in theaters, and Hoppers did extremely well. We talk about kind of the surrounding information that has been shared so far about this project, why it was canceled, what were the conversations, or how are people feeling about it in Pixar and above. And then Kathryn and I kind of go back and forth, just sharing like our observations as just people who may or may not have seen this movie that ever existed. If you're on patreon.com/cinematic doctrine and you join for $3 a month, you gain access to that discussion as well as many, 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 many others, all at the start of episodes whenever you press play on Patreon. And there's a whole bunch of other digital benefits. You're going to hear about those as you're listening to this episode. But you did not press play to hear me pitch to you or advertise to you the Patreon. You press play because you want to hear a movie discussion on the movie Exit 8. Movie discussions are going to be 2 questions that are where we avoid spoilers. We will not talk spoilers at all. We will just talk about kind of how the film starts and how we felt and what it drew out in us. And then the second half of this discussion, we will have 2 prompts that are spoiler specific, that are things that draw out things about the ending or maybe recurrent things that get paid off later, so on and so forth. But I'm here with Kathryn. We're recording on I would say, kind of a lazy, cozy Wednesday night. How are you, Kat?
Not too bad. I'm with you. I still don't know if it's Be Fry or Be Free. My heart says Be Fry, but I know that's wrong.
It's like, I feel like it's trying to say like best friend, right? That's what it kind of sounds like. It's also,
oh
but
yeah,
like,
no. It's half of a best friend's necklace.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, like when you crack them in half.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Oh, okay. So I guess that's kind of clever.
And then I gotta get cracking. I gotta get a best friend's necklace for us.
Oh, that would actually be really cute. I guess tune in next week to see if that happened. Or if Kathryn broke my heart. We'll find out.
Oh no.
So Exit 8. This is a Japanese film adaptation of a Japanese indie game. The game is created by Kotake Create. They created Exit 8, and they also created a sequel to it called Platform 8. Exit 8 was a relatively popular indie game a couple years ago. A lot of Let's Players were playing it. It is part of a subgenre of horror games called Anomaly Horror. The premise of the genre is essentially you go into locations investigating anomalies. What are things that are incorrect? And then somehow the gameplay mechanics are built around either resolving these issues, making a record of them, and you gain points and or win rounds or whatever, or not die because you didn't get killed by the anomaly or something. And so in Exit 8's premise, you just start the game. It's first person, and the rules are super, super simple. The gameplay is you're going to walk down this hallway in a subway station, and if you see an anomaly, you turn around and walk the other direction. If you don't see an anomaly, you keep going. And if you keep going or you turn around, guess what? You're going to walk right into the exact same hallway anyway. The thing, though, is you have to do it correctly 8 times. So if you were to walk into the room and there's an anomaly and you walk forward, you're set back to 0. Even if you were at 7 times in a row, if you get it wrong, you're back to 0, baby. Get it 8 times in a row again. And so Anomaly Horror is then built around this kind of desire to learn and explore, because as anomalies are happening, they might not be immediate. They might be over time. And that's kind of the loop of Anomaly Horror. There's a lot of other games like it that kind of build off of it. We have played Phasmophobia. That's very much Anomaly Horror, but more interactive. I've played through Alternate Watch, which is an itch.io game that's pretty good. But yeah, Kat, what's your experience with Exit 8? Did you kind of enjoy it? We kind of played it together.
Well, you want to know something funny? When you had mentioned that Exit 8 was coming out as a movie, I was like, oh, that sounds new and different, and I've never heard of it before. And then as it like started to click together within the days leading up to going to the theater to watch this, I was like, oh, that's right. It's that game where you're going around in the subway 8 times.
Yeah.
So
and you're like, I mean, no.
I mean, fair enough. I have goldfish memory sometimes. So between, I would say, like all the found footage stuff and all the anomaly horror stuff that we've been through in the past multiple years, Exit 8 unfortunately kind of just seeped out of my brain until we went to go see it.
So we played. The thing about Exit 8, listener, is that the game is very short. It is a very small game. It is the one hallway where on the left side there's a couple posters, and on the right side there's a couple doors and vents, and then there's a man who walks on the right side. Well, you're on the left side from his perspective on the of the hallway towards you while you're walking towards him, that kind of way. And then the anomalies are like just really like strange stuff. It's a seek and find.
So some of the stuff was really subtle. I do remember when we were playing the game, one time it was like the 3rd or 4th poster out of 7-ish posters. I was like, oh no, like that date is different. Like,
yeah, like, it's like stuff that's almost it
can be really small things, or there were other times too where we would start to second guess ourselves, and we're like, wait a second, those fluorescent lights, have they always been centered perfectly in the center, or have they been a little bit to the right this whole time?
There was one where we walked down the hallway and I was like, the guy looks different, but I don't know what. And I think, and we were wrong. We moved forward, but it was an anomaly. And so we were set back to 0. And I think it was like, he was just bigger. Like he was taller, or maybe he was smaller, but his size was different. And so, listener, you're probably thinking, like, if you're not familiar with the genre, you're like, what's scary about a guy being shorter than you? It's like, well, the idea is it's search and find. So you're so focused and so intent that, like, when it primes you to be shocked or scared or caught off guard. And then that's kind of where the fun comes, because you're trying to figure it out before that happens. And so, very fun game, but very short.
Yeah.
Once you kind of learn it, there's enough anomalies that it's hard to tell which one it is. And you'll probably forget certain ones, but I think we finished it the first time in 30 minutes. And then I replayed it 5 days ago and it's only like 10 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, it's not rocket science, but I do think that what is impressive about these types of games is, like you're saying, it builds this sense of anticipation as you're looking for what's wrong.
And these games cleverly draw you in, you're engaged, but then now that they know they have your attention, they're able to play with it, which is very different to other styles. And I have some thoughts on that a bit more into the evoke section. Talking now then, using that as sort of a background, the movie, when it was announced, or at least I think it was screened, it was screened at Cannes, not in competition. It was one of the midnight screenings last year, 2025 Cannes Film Festival. Exit 8 was there, and I was like, that is an interesting game to adapt to a movie, but okay, like, locked in a location or in some sort of supernatural, scary location that you have to do a particular thing to get out. Good. I love that genre. Sign me up. And so when I heard there was a film about it, I was pretty interested. And then so finally now, 2026, it gets its international release. There's actually been some pretty cute advertising they've done lately, such as having the walking man in New York subways just walking around. And if you approached him and you were asked him for where Exit 8 was, he gave you a little like souvenir, which is pretty cute. But so Exit 8, the film opens up where in the first person perspective, clever considering the video game is first person. And this guy is scrolling his phone. It's just nonsense, social media, algorithmic, chum bucket stuff, news that's disastrous. And a baby starts crying. And he looks over and a man starts heckling the mother of the crying baby because it's a packed subway. And he's like, you're so rude. You should quiet your baby. And the man, our person, who we are, because we're first person, puts his headphones back in, ignores the interaction, and keeps scrolling. The train opens and he walks out and he gets a call from I think it's his ex-girlfriend who says, I'm pregnant and I don't really know what I want to do yet. And so you're, as a listener, like, interesting drama set up. Our main character is equally as unsure. And this conversation is kind of dreamy, like the way it's kind of shot, the way it's audio engineering of it's almost like in your head, so it sounds almost like thoughts as opposed to someone speaking. It's very interesting. But we'll notice that as he's looking at his phone, looking for information, and he's walking through the subway, people who are walking by him seem to not be walking by him anymore. And the architecture goes from a bit more grimy and used to pristine white. and he looks up and gamers will know that this is the exit 8.
No,
of course, he's stuck in the exit 8. He is in the main hallway of exit 8, and he doesn't quite understand it because he walks through it, and then he walks through it again, and he goes, "That's weird." And then he walks through it again, and he goes, "Wait a minute." And this is all in first person. And we're seeing him kind of run around and react. And then eventually the camera kind of swings out from his perspective and shows us him. And then we get our title card. And he goes through the rotation a few times. Things are weird until he finally sees the placard that says, to get to exit 8 and leave, you have to essentially, it doesn't say play the game, but it's essentially play this game. Go down the hallway. If there's an anomaly, immediately turn around and come back. If there is no anomaly, move forward. And if you do it correctly 8 times in a row, you get out. And so he begins that journey. So begins Exit 8, the movie. We have our main character who comes into this location being kind of a timid, unsure person with a dramatic predicament, a reason to get out, because he specifically said that he would go see this woman at the hospital, which is where she's at, talking with doctors about this pregnancy. And I thought cleverly, he has an inhaler, so he cannot run around forever. Because, if he's too anxious or whatever, his own body will take him apart. And so, yeah, I think that's a good way to kind of set it up. Let's get into it. What did you think of Exit 8?
I feel like we've talked a good bit about what Anomaly Horror looks like. I think that Exit 8 really nailed the ambience here. It presents a largely liminal and out-of-place nugget of time and space as like the main place where we spend all of our time. But I will say, like, the clips of time that we spend in the actual subway help to ground Exit 8 as being this place that's kind of otherworldly. And it makes it, to me, a little more believable that this infinite hallway could exist. Like, right there, like, in the corner of your eye, on the precipice of reality, Exit 8 could be there. Really, I think the premise and the movie itself feels like a Twilight Zone episode in a really, really good way. That's just kind of like my initial thoughts, but what about you?
Yeah, I liked it. I actually really liked it. It's now in my top 5 for 2025 movies.
Wow.
Yes, it had a 2026 release in the States, but it premiered last year, so it's in that list for me. And I will admit, there was a time where I was like, this will be my number 1. This will take over The Long Walk. That did change, but the fact that it's still up high and even had that moment, right? That honeymoon period of being beautiful. like that Exit 8 has that claim for me. I really, really liked a lot of what Exit 8 was doing. To kind of give a rundown of the film, with no spoilers, remember, but not you, but to the listener, the film.
Yeah, spoil something I've already seen.
Yeah, the film begins and you get this extended first person shot, and I just really liked all that. I thought that was a kind of I didn't even necessarily see it as a nod to the player. I just saw it as someone who was if I'm going to translate a video game into this format, I kind of want to figure out how to cleverly and artistically carry some of those things over. And first person can be really interesting when done well. And I thought here it was done well. It really made you feel congested. It made you feel like a part of this environment where a lot of people are, so that when we end up in the main hallway and there's only one guy and you don't even know if they're real, like that to me just seemed really effective. I liked the slow dialogue at the start, kind of being this dreamy, almost otherworldly way of communicating. Going into the film, I was already aware it was a sort of slow, not even slow burn, because that sort of implies like at the end there's going to be a bang, and I don't think that's true. Dramatically, I think it is, but not so much in terms of crazy visuals. But the movie has a very slow, dreamy way to it. And then I kind of just feel like, though, like with this opening sequence of first person stuff into the title card, you will know by the end of that if you like the movie or not. Because I think like all of the pieces of what are then going to be played with throughout the film are in that. And so take that with what you will. I liked it. You get to the middle of the film and it kind of breaks from that first person perspective, but the cinematography still keeps doing really neat things. It really loves doing these long tracking shots that are a mix of natural tracking and then spliced editing of putting shots together to create a quote unquote seamless thing. But if you're familiar with editing and film, you know when they're cutting. But it's still like, it makes it feel like you are flowing through it as well, which is part of what the game does too. I remember the game stuttering because it's loading the hallway again in front of me. But it's still, the way it's done is as well as it can be, and I like that. It has a good suggestive contextual horror. Like there's this awareness of something wrong without going completely off the rails. Again, not really slow burn, but more psychological drama, horror type stuff going on in the middle of the film. Reminds me a lot of Cube, where it's just largely dialogue by that point. And then it's broken into 3 vignettes, which I think adds just a lot more color to the experience overall. Because if we just followed one character, I think I don't know if you could. I think the film would be 30, 40 minutes if you followed one character. And I think how it reaches its 90-minute feature length with these vignettes, I think works. I think it's pretty neat. And then the end I just found satisfying. I thought it bookended a lot of the material well. In my opinion, everything explored narratively, dramatically, and horrifically is finalized here. And so, yeah. Hey, don't forget, there's a lot of fun content missing from this episode because you're not listening on Patreon. Head over to patreon.com/cinematic doctrine and support for $3 a month to gain access to uncut episodes with upwards of 40 minutes of bonus content each. You'll thank me later.
I appreciate you bringing up the change in perspective from first person to like a third person view, because I think not only the camera work, but also the soundtrack, the orchestral work, all work in the favor of the movie and of the story.
Yeah.
We start off in first person and then suddenly, our character's world gets a little bit bigger, which is, without spoilers, indicative of part of the journey he's going through, is learning to kind of see outside of himself. And I had mentioned this, I think, when we were leaving the theater. I liked that there was so much orchestral music throughout, because you have this movie that's talking about how all of these small details are interwoven and working together within that exit. And you have to pay attention to them and see how they work with each other and make sure that they are like the way that they ought to be. And I appreciate that, because an orchestra is a lot of small, tiny, detailed pieces and performers, and everything kind of has to be just right. So there's a good sense of
cohesion,
like a cohesion or like mass that's brought into that, like this mass of different details working together. But yeah, that's kind of capping my thoughts then.
Yeah. So what did the movie evoke in you? What did you try out?
Yeah, funnily enough, I also thought of Cube.
Oh, nice.
I really think that this movie invites you to reflect on the character drama so well, because the main environment we're in is this looping space. There really isn't much going on.
No, yeah.
So this movie, I would say, feels like Cube, where the gimmick of being stuck in this place that shouldn't exist is incredibly creative with like what it chooses to do with that small space. But that set and that place isn't like really the heart of the movie. There's a lot to chew on here in Exit 8. Some of the things that I pulled out of it were some of the reflections on fatherhood that are kicked around in Exit 8, whether it's from, I would say, 2 of our 3 protagonists, reflections on feeling listless in your career prospects as a young person or feeling trapped in your career prospects as a mature person. So kind of that idea of looking for purpose. Exit 8 plays around with the ideas of selflessness, what it looks like to actually slow down and help your neighbor and care for other people. But I think most of all, the thing that it really kind of drew out and invites you to kind of sit with is, like, the way I would sum it up is, it's this idea that in our fast-paced, screen-heavy life, we can easily become people who tend to see other people as less than human, or that see interactions as less important than they are, like real-life interactions as less important than they are. And whether that shows up in things like ignoring someone who's being harassed in public in Exit 8, or thinking that children don't belong in public spaces, or having a sense of resentment against an older generation. Like, those are all things that are played with here in Exit 8, and it doesn't scream at you like, oh, this is what the movie's about. But it really does invite you to kind of pause and observe and reflect, and manages to do that in a really nice and tight 95-minute runtime. I mean, I think it's a thinker. You know, it's enjoyable, and the choices that are made here feel really, really well measured.
Yeah, for what it evoked in me, I'll start with just contemplating anomaly horror is what I kind of titled this section. So going into movies in general, Kat and I will just chat in the car and be like, well, what do you think the movie's going to be about or whatever? And so we kind of had a conversation like that about this. We were mostly just talking like about like, it's interesting that anomaly horror is so popular and also getting some movies. Anyway, so we were chatting about this and I said, I wonder if the reason anomaly horror is so popular right now is because it's sort of like this antithetical response to the post information age. So when people say the information age, they're kind of thinking about how like within the Western world, just by having a cell phone, you have access to all information. You have the Library of Alexandria in your pocket. And so there's an ease to getting everything in that way. And now that includes physical goods because of Amazon and Amazon Prime. But if you've grown up in the information age, you also know that so much of the stuff is either dangerous or fake. And so, like, you have to either be willing to discern what is right and wrong, or you just kind of are being, like, lambasted by whatever, and you just believe it all. So I was thinking, well, anomaly horror as a type of game isn't reactive. You're not playing a Twitch shooter, which is like Doom, where you're super fast, and the second certain things show up, you do button presses to select certain weapons, and then you can use those because certain enemies are weak to certain weapons. And so it's very fast. That's reactive. Anomaly horror, though, is really kind of slow and contemplative. It's a genre of horror gaming that requires focused involvement. It's less about being reactive and more about observation, followed by contemplation, and then it's finalized with action. When the film starts specifically with a character scrolling his phone, kind of being inundated with just junk from his social media, ignoring somebody in soft peril, I would say non-fatal peril, and then looking at his phone too much that he ends up in the back rooms, basically. like I was like, oh, I clocked this movie immediately. That's exactly what this movie is going to be about, isn't it? It's going to be kind of about the stripping down of information and having to become skilled in observing certain things and knowing what's important and what isn't. Because if there's an anomaly, you have to have known what is normal before the anomaly appears. Otherwise, you don't know that there's an anomaly. So Anomaly Horror, just to me, kind of has that minimalist way of paring down the overstimulating details and forcing the player to just really focus on a collection of limited stuff. As described before, Exit 8 has a few posters on the left and a couple doors on the right and a guy walking down a hallway. And that is just so different to other types of games where it's about going from point A to point B fast and trying not to die and all these other things. It's just an interesting kind of showcase of how when people are confronted with too much, there is the idea of experiencing analysis paralysis. This is the idea that you fear the idea that one may not make a perfect decision, therefore you make no decision, unknowingly realizing that by making no decision, you have made a decision, which is indecision. So it's no surprise then to me that our main character begins the story on his phone, over encumbered by sensory overload. He's on a subway. There's a ton of people. He's scrolling and he's listening to music that he then ignores this situation where he could step in and maybe help this woman stand up for this woman and her child on a busy subway train being heckled by possibly a drunk workman. But instead, he doesn't have his priorities straight in terms of morality. And that does become a lot of what the story's about as he goes through the Exit 8 hallway.
He also gets jolted out of this with a very important question. His ex-girlfriend calling to say, "I'm pregnant. What's next?"
Yeah.
So he's faced with something that he can't ignore or put off.
No, yes, he can't. You're totally right.
That's a moment that you have to take. You have to be there in person. You have to take care of that. You have to have those conversations. You have to
know what's important.
You have to be fully present, and you have to know what your values are in that moment and what your plans are and what your relationship is like with this other person.
It is so interesting that the route taken to create a dramatic story built around the tenets of anomaly horror of focus, not focus, learning what's important, what's not important, is that our main character is confronted with the fact that he has gotten his ex-girlfriend pregnant. And she isn't sure if she wants to keep it or not, but wants to touch base with him first. And he doesn't give an answer. And then he ends up in the back rooms. He ends up in Exit 8. And so, that to me is such a ballsy thing to do for a video game adaptation. And I love that because it means it's taking the medium seriously. It's taking the story seriously. It recognizes that the medium of video games is a human endeavor, a human way of storytelling sometimes, or experience, because stories aren't always cutscenes. Someone's got to tell Naughty Dog that just because you can do cutscenes in Last of Us doesn't mean that I like it. I want to play a game, not watch a movie, guys. And Exit 8 is an experience that is telling you stuff. And if you're willing to engage it, you can. And in the movie, just finds a way to do that with really interesting, effective, dramatic ways. And so, I was just thinking a lot about from driving to the film, watching the film, coming home and prepping for this episode about how Anomaly Horror seems like this tiny rejection of being inundated with too much and finally learning about what is actually important. It is a search and find wherein you participate because you have to make an action at the end. You have in the nature of video games, you must participate. You're not just giving up. If you want to move forward, you have to progress. Interestingly, though, and I didn't prep this note, but I think what's also interesting is because the anomalies are strange, it does play with the fact that when you are tempted by something dangerous, your curiosity makes it so you want to stick around. And I think that's also a really interesting thing with Anomaly Horror, because it says if there's an anomaly, get out as fast as you can and go backwards. and he just sticks around. And to me though, it's of course you do. You're curious, but you're also I gotta go. And that is the hardship of discerning information. There have been times I've been hurt by information. I've read descriptions of movies that are heinous, or I've seen images of car accidents online. There are just things that in your exploration of information that things can be dangerous, and you ought to learn when to turn back. And so,
even today, I was telling you, I was on my lunch break. I decided to sit out on our deck, And I open up my phone because I was like, maybe I'll listen to something. And I open it to Spotify and I'm like, oh, this is a news story that's really going to upset me. This is going to ruin the next 20 minutes I have on my lunch break. Maybe I should not listen to that. And
Yeah.
I think so often it's just easy to go into that rhythm, especially with social media, especially with the scrolling, especially with
constant consumption. It's like gluttony. Yeah.
And so when you finally slow down, or when you're faced with something that like forces you to kind of tether back in and look around you, I think you do have to have that type of responsibility to know when enough is enough.
Yeah, and the way the film goes, it even shows like it's never too late to make the decision. Mm-hmm. Like in the video game, Exit 8, you can experience some of the anomaly, but you still got to turn around. Like if you want to get out, you got to turn around.
Sheriff, we got a lot to talk about.
Welcome to Twin Peaks. I'm your Twin Peaks veteran, Special Agent Matt Hanna.
And I'm your first-time viewer, Sheriff Hannah.
And each week, we're visiting David Lynch and Mark Frost's Twin Peaks on our new show, Welcome to Twin Peaks, a Twin Peaks rewatch podcast.
Entering the town of Twin Peaks.
We're talking dreams, damn fine coffee.
A damn fine cup of coffee.
Back we're talking mysteries.
And asking the important questions like, who really killed Laura Palmer? Are the owls what they seem? And why does this town feel like a nightmare you don't want to wake up from?
It is happening again.
Whether you're a longtime Twin Peaks resident or stepping into the Black Lodge for the very first time, Welcome to Twin Peaks is your guide through the woods.
What kind of fantastic trees have you got growing around here?
New episodes every week wherever you get podcasts.
And be sure to follow our socials at Welcome to Twin Peaks Podcast for schedules and opportunities to call and write into the show.
I'm gonna turn it upside down!
The mysteries are dense and the secrets are dark.
We'll see you in Twin Peaks with a fresh cup of coffee.
I feel like we can get in a lot more specifics if we get into the spoiler section. So why don't we do that transition? So if you have not seen Exit 8, I highly recommend it. I really liked it. I liked the experience of it. I liked the slow pace of it. I found it chock full of interesting things. It feels very much of today in kind of exploring some of the just social things that you are inundated with in a very passive way, if that makes any sense. But yeah, let's get into the spoiler section. So the first prompt we got, recurring motifs and prominent significant moments and or characters. What do you have, Kathryn?
So funnily enough, this is a good segue from the non-spoilers to the spoilers, because a lot of my thoughts in this section are on anomalies and anomaly horror. Really, I mean, it's obvious. Recurring things, motifs. It's always the same hallway, the same posters, the same doors, the same set of lockers around the corner. So I think the thing that stood out to me wasn't the obvious, which is the environment looks mostly the same outside of these little anomalies, but rather the more personal, everyday anomalies that still happen here. Like our main character finding out that his girlfriend is pregnant, and then our main character, the lost man, finding a lost kid. And when he sees this kid, he goes, anomaly. Turns around.
Yeah.
Goes to the hallway, sees that the counter went from like 5 to 0, and he's like, wait, that kid was real?
Yeah. Yeah. It was a good surprise. I think I heard you respond to that. Like, oh.
Yeah.
Like, because like, there isn't anything like that in the game, which I like that the movie found ways to like preserve the substance of the game, but introduce these things that were like, yeah, I don't know where the movie's going to go. I have no idea. And I thought that was neat.
I mean, I would say like the next like everyday anomaly that I saw was these just weird interactions with strangers. like in the hallway, our transition goes from the lost man, who we follow through most of the film, to the walking man, who is the man who has been walking down the hallway and, you know, doing weird anomaly stuff. And then the child. But in that second title card with the Lost Man, there was some really interesting stuff going on where we find out that the Lost Man at one point was also trying to leave and find Exit 8. And he ends up kind of in a similar simulation, so to speak, except there's this like older schoolgirl walking where he would normally walk in Exit 8.
Mm-hmm.
So he's walking in the opposite direction the walking man is from what his normal route, and there's a schoolgirl walking the other way, and the walking man also found this lost child. And so there's just like this really good interaction where, as the walking man's trying to escape, the walking woman also stops and talks to him and tries to convince him that, like, oh, it's not an anomaly, whatever, it's fine. And you find out, like, no, actually, her talking to him was an anomaly.
Yeah.
And so, like, there are just these really weird interactions with strangers. Like, nobody in this movie really knows each other, whether, you know, our main characters and then this other lady. Yeah, I mean, just to kind of like wrap up the anomaly stuff, the last thing is taking the wrong turn. This whole thing happens because of an everyday anomaly, which is just, oops.
Yeah.
I went the wrong way.
Yes.
And I think maybe what I see in this is humanity has a lot of spontaneity baked into us. We do things that are unexpected. Comparing this to the trivial novelties that we get served up by algorithms and advertisements, this is just like an imitation of like the actual spontaneity found in just living your life as a person. The variety in these algorithms is there to try and keep you engaged with the screen, but really, like, you're disengaging from the world around you. And so I appreciate like the humanity at the core of the story.
Me too.
I really like it.
The humanity adds so much more to the film that, like, it really ties everything together. And I think it could be hard for some people to understand how the kind of experience pairs with the dramatic storytelling. Although, like you observed, like all of the anomalies that happen to the lost man are all things that like correlate to stuff that was on his social media feed or his experiences on the train. So like someone might understand like the narrative idea there, but like just the idea though, like of like you're stuck in a looping hallway that's very backroomsy and stuff like that. To me, like I could see someone being like, this feels like two different movies put together and then stretched out because it's very slow. But like I think like the drama and the level of it too, like how dramatic the film gets, like that to me, that was just a really wonderful surprise. Like, I really liked all that. So that was pretty cool. I have 2 points that I had, so I'll read one of them and then pass it back to you, and I'll do the one that's kind of on the drama stuff. But the fear of fatherhood was there in the movie. So we have our main character who, the reason he doesn't quite have an answer for his ex about keeping the child or not is specifically because he feels so ashamed that he was on the train. A woman is being berated by a possibly drunk workman, day worker, for her crying baby, and he didn't do anything. And he just feels so ashamed. And like, I loved the degree to how ashamed he looked and acted and everything, because that felt very much like someone with bipolar and over emotional and over analyzing things. Like I felt that way specifically about, like, I think it was a couple years ago that I accidentally killed one of my fish and I lost it. I was so angry and so sad. Like, I literally, like, my mind jumped from, if I can accidentally kill a fish, I can accidentally kill my own child. Like, and I just was like so ashamed and fearful and worried. And so to me, like, I got it. Bro, I get it. You're like, if I am on a train and I am 2 meters away from this thing, and I could have stood up for her, then what gives me the right to bring a life into this world? For the film to then run with that, I was like, yeah, like, let's do it. Let's see what you do with it. And I really liked where it goes. And it kind of keeps a theme of that going. You have the lost man, who that's his character development, his growth. Then we go to the walking man, who also is like, he is frustrated. He's stuck in the loop because he's like, I get to see my son tonight. And so I guess the presumption is he works so much. He doesn't see his family a lot. And so he's so desperate to just get home and see his kiddo. And you can presume he's a good father, like he's kind, because he's taking care well of the boy. So there's the boy that's found earlier that is not an anomaly. He just doesn't talk. He just looks, as some kids do. And so, but he seems fairly patient and understanding, but a little the walking man seems fairly patient, but a little tenacious. And so, but there's very clear like stuff about fathers and sons there. Also, because of the lost man's shame, the film is exploring these ideas of like shame and getting outside of it. And to me, it isn't just a narrative hurdle that our main character has asthma, but that it's also kind of a thing as an audience to make us think about him as a person, as a body. And people who struggle with chronic diseases or something like this, there are times where you are just mad that your body doesn't work and you're mad at yourself and you're mad at this and that, whatever. And so to me, to have there be a dramatic thing for shame and then also have him have this thing where he very actively is reminded he cannot escape his own body, that was just good, because that's also in theme with the fact that you cannot escape this environment except for if you follow the rules just right. And so yeah, I saw that as kind of a recurrent looping thing, and I like where it goes by the ending. We'll get into that in the end. I digress. Any thoughts on that before your next point and then my next point?
I do think that we get to see a nice picture of, I would say, like manhood at different points and stages. You have the walking man who's very career focused, already has a kid, and is like maybe stuck in the loop a little too much. You have the lost man who's just trying to find his way out, but is also incredibly frustrated and incredibly lost. And then you have this little kid who like represents like this softness, this boyhood, this new life that, like, for the lost man, he's considering, do I even want to have a kid? And finding this boy is like a representation in a way of choosing to do well to the next generation, whether it's like his kid or not, you know, like whether he does have a kid or doesn't have a kid, like this kid, the lost boy is kind of that representation there.
You getting into that, I want to, talking about Next Generation, the film does have an awareness of like your cultural contribution. Is that cultural contribution good? Are you doing better by your fellow man? Because it is interesting that his dramatic thing is like, if I'm not caring for my neighbor, how can I care for my family? And yeah, like that's a good thing to think through. And so, yeah, it's neat then for this to then have a generational aspect too, because who's your neighbor? It's everybody. It's old, young, left, right, doesn't matter. Talking that rundown though, but I sort of also thought too about like, this shows an interesting way of how we filter and observe information, and then how that filtration can color how we understand the world. So each person is engaging. So as I've stated, Anomaly Horror, you engage information in a way that's very intentful. You have to observe, contemplate, act. And so you have the lost man who engages by looking at specific details, even artistic stuff. He knows the artist of a particular thing, which granted most people would. But then you have the walking man who summates his observation down to numbers. He basically just goes 7 posters. Okay, there's no anomaly. There's 7 posters, 3 doors. Okay, got it. And that's all very classifiable, quantifiable. And he's a businessman, so you can kind of presume that's the direction they're kind of building. Then you have like the boy who is soaking in everything extremely well, because that's what kids do. They just consume everything from every sense, neuroplasticity at maximum power. And so he just notices whenever there's an anomaly, like almost immediately, because he recognizes these things out of nowhere. Which I was worried they were going to exploit that for bad storytelling, and they never do. They never go that way.
my cube senses were tingling, and not in the good way.
Yeah, and so I liked that was just like, no, he's just a kid who just notices stuff. He wasn't like, it wasn't like a superpower, and then it wasn't like a thing where like, okay, we'll get through all 8 rooms easy. So that was cool. But what's interesting, I think, to that is that part of why there's some success and failure in the story is the way that they engage and consume information as being different. But stepping away from that, because I'll finish my point here, what was interesting is when I talked about this to you, specifically the walking man and how he summates his stuff down to numbers, you went, that's really interesting, because I thought of how when the lost man sees the homeless stuff, he says blanket and cup of noodles. But when the walking man sees it, he just describes it as garbage, which I thought was a in real example of us observing the same thing and taking in totally different stuff and then therefore having totally different responses to it. So I digress. That's just a very interesting thing that is present in anomaly horror storytelling. So I thought that was cool to see on film.
Well, and I think the story here does a great job of kind of showing that everybody has a different perspective to share across the generations.
Yes.
To kind of cap off my points here, I saved my anomaly horror thesis for this point, not for earlier. I think that anomaly horror is popular specifically because the generation now making these games, creating these movies, telling these stories are a generation that have been promised one set of expectations for how life should be and have received a totally different lot. And let me just explain what I mean by that, because like people in our generation and a little bit older, just because you have a 4-year degree, it does not mean you will earn a living wage versus our parents and grandparents, where having that 4-year degree made a huge difference. Like for people our generation and slightly older, financial and social milestones that your parents had just don't look the same or aren't as easily obtained.
No.
And any small amount of decorum in politics has just been entirely obliterated.
Yes.
I could go on. But I think that part of why anomaly horror is popular right now is because it takes these things that are familiar, like the soft TV glow in Skinamarink, or the yellow wallpaper in the back rooms, or just a regular subway station here in Exit 8, and it makes them unnerving. These familiar spaces, these expected spaces, hide a presence that is against you and against your survival. And these presences are not named. They're not a part of like the elite. It's not like something like Cube or Escape Room. These presences in these anomaly horror stories are an odd but exacting force of nature that's just working against you. And like this force of nature is leading you towards this existential dread. It's not quite Lovecraftian, it's not quite cosmic, but it's this like existential anomaly.
It's weird fiction. It's, yeah, it goes into the just like, we're going to just do something that ostensibly is 1000% impossible, but we're going to do it as real as we can. and like, yeah. And then it gets, you know, as good weird fiction can be, it gets to like human stuff, like, which is what the film does. It carries its human stuff going forward.
You may not know this, but the easiest way you can show your support for Cinematic Doctrine is to rate and review the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen. So press pause and share your thoughts. We'd love to hear what you have to say. And then press play again so you can hear the rest of the show.
Well, hey, let's get into the ending. So through a series of events, Exit 8, we get to this point where the Lost Man is able to... he is confronted with a decision where they go into this anomaly room. I think it's the 7th one. So they just have to get through one more. And what's interesting, again, is the second you see an anomaly, you just turn around and you would be out. You'd be at Exit 8 and you're done. But they're in the room and everything's normal until a tsunami siren kicks on and a rush of water comes down the subway. The Lost Man grabs the boy and they start running away, but the boy falls and the Lost Man turns to see him fall right as the water is rushing, and then the water rushes into the camera. And this is a very end of Evangelion scene wherein we're almost like whisked away to how I interpreted it as an entire lifetime, wherein the Lost Man and the woman that he's been has had the phone call with at the start are at a beach and the boy is playing in the ocean, and they're talking. The woman kind of says a line like, "Have you made a decision?" which is something that like has been said multiple times. And he kind of like perks up as if it's like waking him up from a dream. But then she's like, "Oh, I didn't say anything." So then they talk about like this and that, whatever. He just has this moment where the boy runs up to him because like in this vision or this other world or this other life that he lived, right? This other entire life. He loves the boy and the boy loves him because he's his dad and the boy is his son. And then we flash back to the flooding water, and he has the water has completely filled up the entire area except for maybe like a few inches up to the top of the subway. And the lost man has carried the boy up onto the exit 8 sign that hangs on the top of the subway so that he can survive. And then as the lost man is holding on, the torrents of water brush him off and he gets lost into the water. We kind of fade to black. We come back and the boy wakes up. There is debris everywhere, definitely evoking routine tsunamis that affect Japan. And the boy stands up amidst all this wreckage and he walks back because he knows it's an anomaly and he exits. And then we also actually end up seeing that the lost man has also successfully exited. And so now we're following the lost man out. So we can presume that the boy got out probably to go find his mother because we don't see him anymore at the end, which it would have been nice to maybe have something, but it's fine. The lost man, he also escapes. And in terms of narrative stuff, he has effectively done something that he didn't think he could do, which is risk his life or stature or ego specifically for someone else. And in this case was literally his life to try to save the boy. And it's basically a repeat. Just like the hallway, he is reset basically to moments before he got lost, where he's on the train and the baby starts crying again. And he looks over, it's the same woman, same baby. And then the same man gets mad and his AirPods are already in. So he's hearing that song from the beginning. And man, do they really stretch out you thinking he maybe he didn't learn anything. He's not going. It's like a good minute, maybe a minute and a half. And then finally he turns because he's going to confront the man to tell him to leave this woman and their child alone. And we immediately cut to credits. And I was like, yo, if this movie doesn't have him turn, I am going to hate it so much because I would have been so mad. Not because I didn't think he wouldn't do it, even if it faded the credits, but because I would have been like, you gotta just close it. Close the book. Like, I will think about what the movie says. I don't want to think about what he does. And so he finally does it. And yeah, so he's grown. He's standing up for his neighbor, which means he'll probably go see his ex and say, like, I want to be a dad. I want to care for this son. I know I can do it. Let's do it together. So it's like a really kind of like cute ending, like very human and heartfelt ending. Yeah, it just made me happy. Like, I feel happy thinking about it because the song that's playing is almost like a march. So it feels like a call to action to care for your neighbor because it's good for you and good for your fellow man, good for your family, good for those you love. You can love your peers well because you can love your neighbors well. And so I liked it a lot. Yeah. What do you think?
I think this movie, just hearing you recap the ending, those anomalies really start to stick with you because whenever the lost man finally gets to the exit for exit 8, the stairway is going down. And I'm over here panicking because the last time we saw someone try to leave, it was the walking man and the stairway was going up.
And for the listener, in the game, when you exit, you go upstairs. So
you go
it's
upstairs,
we really don't know what's going to happen.
I was on the edge of my seat at the very end thinking, oh no, this is an anomaly and he's going to be like stuck.
And it's long too. He like gets a water bottle. He drinks the whole thing. He stands around. He looks paranoid. And I felt paranoid. I was like, I don't know if this is real. If that last scene at the beach was like the end of an entire lifetime, I don't know what's real. Like, it was really kind of great.
I mean, I felt okay once he walked down the staircase and got to the subway station. We started seeing people.
Yeah, once you hear a crowd.
But like, it gets to you. And like,
Yeah,
even up into the very end where you're like, okay, yeah, he's staring there and he's starting to get red in the face, but you're like, okay, and he's got to turn. He's gonna confront them, right?
Yeah.
So
I was sitting at the edge of my seat, like, come on.
Yeah, it's got like good tension to it. But to cut to the chase here, I'm gonna be cheesy with this one too. But for the ending, I was thinking of that C.S. Lewis quote that is quoted all the time, where to love at all is to be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's truncating that quote. But watching this movie, what I was left thinking about is we can numb ourselves to the life that's going on all around us. But in doing so, we begin to kind of dim the loveliness of love, while we, by proxy, avoid this fear or pain or uncertainty that we have to come to terms with when we actually live our lives. When we actually say something in the subway whenever someone's being a jerk to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
When we actually make a choice to say, yes, I'm ready to be a father or what have you. I'm with you. Like, I thought it was really heartfelt that the ending was the lost man finally putting someone else above himself. Literally and figuratively pulling the little boy above himself so that he could survive. And, you know, whether this kid is truly a stranger or some representation of his unborn son, this type of self-sacrifice, hope, and comfortability with risk shows a growth in this man's maturity. It's just a great ending.
Enjoying this episode? Grab that share link and tell your friends. Word of mouth is the most effective way for a podcast to reach new listeners, so don't be shy. Share the episode wherever you can.
So what do you recommend?
Okay, here I am again to say the words Cube.
Wow.
This episode presented to you by Cube, 1997.
Great movie. So good.
I don't know if it's taboo to recommend them like a movie that we've already reviewed on the podcast.
It'll be the first time, that's for sure. I've reviewed movies I've recommended, but I don't know if I've ever recommended a movie I've reviewed.
A movie you reviewed. Yeah, so spoilers for the end of that episode. I recommend it.
It's a great movie and it's a good episode. Check it out.
But I mean, just thinking in terms of like a double feature. Thinking in terms of that. Like if you like Exit 8, you would really, really, really like Cube. Really, it shares a lot of the repetitive nature. Cube excellently balances the character drama and the creative ways of executing horror in that limited set space. I love sci-fi. I just love it. And Cube is up there with my all-time favorites. So please excuse my faux pas here.
And if you want something more thrilling than Exit 8, then yeah, Cube is definitely it. I mean, that one is a fun one. I'm going to recommend The Fly 2. It's not nearly as good as Cronenberg's. Don't go into it thinking that it will be. Its special effects are definitely not quite to Cronenberg's, but I think great in different ways. Cronenberg's, though, the special effects have more context because of the story being better. But it's basically a B-movie, like monster horror feature with like a dash of sci-fi in it, being kind of like how we get the monster. It's got these incredible practical effects that are just beyond tangible. They are so gross. Really, really impressive stuff. The movie overall is pretty silly in terms of premise and how it gets to where it wants to go to. And it's a perfect kill time with a fun flick kind of movie. It's charismatic. Don't take it seriously. The opening pretty much rejects the first film, and just says we're going to do something different. If you're willing to accept that is the norm of old school sequels, then you're going to probably still enjoy it. Kathryn and I put it on and Kat came over to watch it, and I think we both ended it with yeah, that was fun. Again, you can't follow up a masterpiece. It's just not possible.
It's hardcore a B movie. Not gonna sugarcoat it, guys.
And not The Bug. It's a B movie, but not The Bug.
No, it's a Fly movie, actually.
It's a Fly movie, an F movie.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Cinematic Doctrine. If you enjoyed the episode, give us 5 stars on whatever podcast app you're using. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe, too. We put out stuff all the time. If you're listening on YouTube, hit that thumbs up and leave a comment. It helps the algorithm share our stuff around, and I see them, so I usually reply. Also, if you support on Patreon, you could have totally heard this episode early. There's a bunch of other benefits to supporting on Patreon, so head on over to patreon.com/cinematic doctrine to learn more. Speaking of Patreon, thank you so much to our Art House Theater tier Patreon supporters. Thanks, Thomas, Shirley-Ann, Mom, and Dad. Your support is greatly appreciated. Until next time, stay cool.
Sheriff, we got a lot to talk about.
Welcome to Twin Peaks. I'm your Twin Peaks veteran, Special Agent Matt Hanna.
And I'm your first-time viewer, Sheriff Hannah.
And each week, we're visiting David Lynch and Mark Frost's Twin Peaks on our new show, Welcome to Twin Peaks, a Twin Peaks rewatch podcast.
Entering the town of Twin Peaks.
We're talking dreams, damn fine coffee,
A damn fine cup of coffee.
back we're talking mysteries,
And asking the important questions like, who really killed Laura Palmer? Are the owls what they seem? And why does this town feel like a nightmare you don't want to wake up from?
It is happening again.
Whether you're a longtime Twin Peaks resident or stepping into the Black Lodge for the very first time, Welcome to Twin Peaks is your guide through the woods.
What kind of fantastic trees have you got growing around here?
New episodes every week wherever you get podcasts.
And be sure to follow our socials at Welcome to Twin Peaks Podcast for schedules and opportunities to call and write into the show.
I'm gonna turn it upside down!
The mysteries are dense and the secrets are dark.
We'll see you in Twin Peaks with a fresh cup of coffee.